Yeah. And Johnny, I wonder if you had a similar relationship with it because so many things happened in your life before you went and sought it out. So, would you say that you had a similar perception that you only chase it when you absolutely positively need it?
Uh, yes and no, but it was for different reasons. I I was lucky enough to grow up with a father. Like my father is my best friend. Like I love him, but I went through a period where I judged him. Like I said, my mother and father were together, and they both were great to me, but they were terrible for each other. So my dad, like, was a dad. So when my grandma passed, I got to watch how my dad grieved as a man, but I also got to watch him move forward and how he dealt with it. However, him and my mom didn't get along well. So my mom would criticize my dad for crying or like poke fun at him for crying, for showing his emotion. So that's what kind of taught me to hide my emotions, because I would watch how my mom would treat my dad when he would show his emotions, and then he would get overly emotional, and then they would end up fighting, and then the police come and they're taking my dad to jail. So that made me not want to be emotional in front of women, because I didn't want to be made fun of. I didn't want to be judged. So my first two relationships failed simply because I hid all of my emotions, not to be laughed at. And so it came full circle where I feel like I judged my father for the domestic violence with him and my mother, and I didn't understand his side of the story. I didn't realize that he only snapped because he was getting laughed at and he was getting judged. So it was just so much that I had to unpack. So it took me so long because I had to realize, like, both of my parents loved me. And I was wrong for judging my dad for him fighting my mother. Regardless of what they went through with each other, they both would give their life for me. So I had to disconnect myself from their violence and their trauma. And that's what really helped me to heal. And that's what made me like have closure with my father, because I had to think back, and he was a great dad. Like I remember riding on his shoulders to preschool when I was 3 years old. Like I remember sitting in the front of his Cadillac. I remember all those things. But it's really easy when you go through traumatic situations to all you remember is the nights where they're fighting. All you remember is seeing your mom bloody. All you remember is your dad in the back of the paddy wagon. And you forget this is the same dad that was walking you home at 2 o'clock in the morning, like with stuff like that. So I had to disconnect from my parents, and that helped me become myself. I had to go forgive my father for realizing that he was a good father, and that regardless of what he was, he could have left. And one of the greatest questions I asked him was, if you could go back and you could just live your life and you didn't have to fight with my mom and be in and out of jail your whole life, if you could have just been a man and been free, would you do it? And he said, no. He said, I would go back and do it all over again, because the man you became is everything to me. I got 6 children. I love all of them. I feel like I'm the greatest father in the world. I'm sure some men will want to debate. But if I don't have a father in my life, I'm not the man I am. I'm not the dad I am. Everything I am is because I got to see my father. I'm 31 years old, and I can call my dad today and talk to him for 4 or 5 hours, and he still telling me he loves me every time we get off the phone. That's privilege to me, because I know most men have never experienced that.
Brandon, can I ask you your reaction to that? Because I wonder, now that you all have discovered mental health in a different way, now you're being parents to Black children